So thank you once again for joining us. It's a real pleasure to have you with us. And we are, I said, coming to you live from Bristol at the moment. We've got a great course at the moment, the face-to-face course that we've got running here. We've got people from Gibraltar, people from Ireland, people from Scotland, people from Wales and England. So it's a real lovely mix of people. So it's been a real pleasure to be here with them this week so far. So we're just going to give a couple of minutes for other people to join us. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome, and thank you for listening in. And hopefully we'll be able to give you some nuggets of information, some real gems to help you starting your specialist business in 2024. And we hope that you enjoy the session going forward. So I think everyone should be either online now or nearly there. And I said, if you just put your name and where you're joining us from in the box for us to keep in touch, that would be great. So thank you very much. So the first topic we're going to discuss is industry research. I've been asked to kind of give you some insights on how you navigate the cleaning industry to try and find your niche. It's really interesting that people for years and years just assume that the work that we do all comes from the police, which is a complete fallacy. That's not true at all. It comes from so many different areas. And depending where you're placed, what your background is, what you're good at, where you live, people you know, all these little niche markets come to mind. And over the past 30 years of running this business, I've been really trying to find those niches. I'm not sure if you know my background personally, but I live in West Wales, where there's more sheep than people. And so to be able to try and create and build a business in that area has been incredibly difficult without finding all these little niche and specialist areas. So what do you need to look for? Well, luckily, as we've built this business, we've had loads of different people come on our course from different backgrounds. And it's given me an insight as well into what the niches are around them. First of all, for me, I was really fed up of chasing constantly just turnover and chasing run-of-the-mill cleaning work. So I wanted to find a niche market, something that no one else was doing. And what I realised very early on was the more problems you can solve, the better. The more unique the problem, the better. The faster you can respond, the better. And actually, when you put them all together, cost and pricing didn't really matter. People were willing to pay to have all those problems sorted out and solved for them. Now, when we think of some of this work, it does come through the police. So we get some work where it's cleaning up police vehicles or custody cells, or some scenes for the police that they want us to clean up, forensic tread plates, those kind of things, pop-up tents that we clean for them. That is correct. But actually, all these little niches are amazing. So if you live currently on the east coast of the UK, there's loads of immigrants, illegal immigrants, crossing over into the UK. There's lots of biohazard cleaning required for those people who are sometimes in a desperate state, but lots of cleaning required, whether it's the boats that they've been in, whether it's the lorries they've managed to get into the back of, whether it's shipping containers that they've been hiding in, whether they've been taken to a secure unit and that area itself needs to be cleaned up and sanitized. That's one little niche area. We've got other members who and other companies that we've trained who clean private aircraft. All the parties and goings on that happen in private aircraft, along with people who've got travel sickness, they need cleaning and sanitizing. There's other niches as well. Think of private ambulances that are taking people to and from hospitals or from residential homes. Those need sanitizing, along with the vast array of other ambulances and vehicles that are used in the NHS and in those industries. You might also have not thought about your local taxi firm, about when somebody goes sick in a vehicle. Who's cleaning that up? Are they cleaning it carefully? What about other transport, buses, coaches, maybe ferries? What's around you? What about looking at the area around you for theme parks, where people are ill in theme parks, or there's issues that happen? Lots of different tiny little niches that you might never have thought of. And then we've got things like road accidents, your local council, who's dealing with those, housing associations dealing with void properties, councils, etc. So lots of different niches that you can get into. We'll talk about marketing a little bit later, But some things that get overlooked as well is actually going into agricultural. So things like vets practices, who's sanitising those? Might have stable blocks in the equine industry, or we might have just agricultural buildings to do with avian flu, or with situations where some farmers got tuberculosis outbreak and they want their vehicles, their barns sanitised and cleaned down. These are all niches that we've been involved in. And then you get something like a pandemic that comes along, like COVID did, and suddenly you're not only really well prepared, but that is your niche. That's your way to make money in that biohazard industry. So finding a niche is really important to you. For every person that I've ever met that said, yeah, I'll cover the whole of the UK, that would be amazing. But primarily, the biggest niche has to be where you're based. You need to have a good think about what's around you, who you can offer these services to, and who needs them. Where are the problems? It's a really key point to do that. I think one of my best stories that I know is a friend of mine who was looking for a niche, not in biohazard, but just looking for a niche. And all he did was drive around and look for a problem. One of the problems he saw was that all the Sky TV dishes were rusting on the side of houses and all brown was running down the walls. So he decided to buy 100 Sky dishes and then he offered to replace them for people. He bought 100 new ones and he would go round, he would take the old ones off, replace them with a brand new one, and he charged them accordingly. The ones he took down, he used to take back to his garage. He'd wire brush them all down, clean them, spray them, paint them again, and take them to use on the next job and to replace them. What a great little business, and gives you an idea of how you need to search for a niche market by looking for the problems just around where you are living and the problems that are associated with that area. So that's the first thing. That's your niche you need to look for. Secondly, specialization secrets. So we need to know how to pick and excel in our unique cleaning services. How do we manage to look for those secrets? Well, actually, excelling in what you're doing involves a lot of who you know and what you know. And that can't be taken for granted. If you know people who are currently working for councils or for housing associations, or they work currently for police forces, or they're working as undertakers, that's absolute gold dust if you can speak to those people and ask them whether they can help you. Secondly, training obviously is a massive part of it, and working along with other people. The lovely thing about our academy is that as a network, we can all help each other. We can feed off each other and really help each other to excel in what we do. There are some kind of things that change regularly, such as waste regulations. They've changed recently. There's a new waste called POPs waste, which is an interesting thing how it affects us. So that's good when you've got an organisation around you that can really help you to do that. And but knowledge is key. Knowledge and relationships, I think, are really vital in how we really delve into this business and really increase our uniqueness around us. Another thing also I've been asked to talk to you about is budgeting. So I started my business just as a window cleaner at 15 years old and kind of built it into a multi-million-pound business. And I've made mistakes along the way, but also I've made some really, really good decisions. One of the things I've always been proud of is how thrifty I am. I've always tried to be careful with money in the sense that I wouldn't just go out and buy loads of vans, loads of equipment, and just have it sitting there waiting to use. I would always try, if I could, to offset the cost of any new machinery for the job I was using. So, for instance, I never needed a pressure washer for ages, but the first job I did need it for, I managed to get that pressure washer paid for by that job. So then I had that in my armoury for going forward. And that works really well as well. But there are some things, some things in this industry that you need to purchase. I would say one thing is a kit that you'll need set up for needle picks. You will need to have that kind of stuff because people aren't willing to wait around for those kind of jobs to be done. Remember what I said at the start, that you need to find a unique problem, but also respond to it quickly. And you need to have some of that stuff. So you will need a basic needle kit to have with you. I think you'll also need to have a fogging machine, a really good, decent fogging machine, and chemical to go in that. And then you need to be able to budget on how you're going to go forward. So your vehicle, for example, Do you need to buy a vehicle? Or whenever you get a job that comes in, can you have a deal with your local hire company like Enterprise Car Hire or a local hire company? Can you go and hire a van off them for the afternoon? That might be a far cheaper way than having to spend a lot of money to get your business up and running straight away and having to deal with costs, big costs like vehicles. It might be that you can just buy a little trailer to tow behind your vehicle, and that is how you're going to operate your vehicle, your business from. Some people in our industry do that as well. I think a van is probably better, but if that's one of your options, that would be really good for you as well. And your finances, I would always say don't stretch yourself too much, because the more pressure you put on yourself, the harder it's going to be for you to focus on your work. However, that's easier said than done, and I've been there also where I've had lots of work come in, cash flow gets very, very difficult. At one point, we decided to invoice factor, which is quite an interesting situation where you can go to your local bank and you can ask them to bankroll you, basically. So they invoice your customers for you, and they lend you the money on that from that job, and you get paid nearly instantly. So your cash flow increases amazingly. It will stifle you in the future, the bigger your business gets, but it may be able to get you out of trouble. So it might be worth just having a look at invoice factoring or invoice financing to see whether that can help you right now if you've got outstanding money and you're waiting for it to come in and you need that to push your business further forward. I've always tried to look for a bargain as well. So whenever I've been trying to buy something, I've gone to auctions. I've really tried to be thrifty in the way that I've brought equipment, even property. So I didn't ever want to rent a property. I always wanted to own one. So I wasn't flushing money down the drain. And in the future, I had an asset to retain. So that was also something I was conscious of. But you might feel differently. But for me, I wanted to own something. So the minute I could afford to buy a property, commercial property for our business, I went ahead and did that. So so finances, important that you get that right. Also, when it comes to invoicing, many customers that we've got expect a 30-day account. So they pay within 30 days of the invoice. That means you need to get your invoices to them as quick as you can. And if you're a one-man band, two-man band, you might think, actually, it's not too important. I'll just do all my invoicing at the end of the month. Well, that's fine, but that means all of the jobs you did at the start of the month, you've now got to wait nearly 60 days to get paid for because you haven't invoiced them. So I was really conscious to invoice straight away. So the day I completed the work, I would invoice straight away. So I made sure I had that continual cash flow in 30 days. And if we were dealing with customers that we'd never met before, then we decided that we would, instead of just doing the job with no kind of safety net, we'd ask them for 50% of the job cost up front. So we would write a pro forma invoice so that they could then send us 50% up front, and then we completed the work, the other 50%. So that's a really good way also of managing your cash flow and protecting yourself with companies that are that you don't know, or you've never worked for before, private individuals. And another mistake I've also made is by trusting companies too much. We're all kind of liable to having troubles in our businesses. And over the years, there's been some companies that I've worked for that have owed me £25,000-30,000, and they've gone bankrupt. And I've not got a penny of it. It's been really difficult for our business at that point to try and get over that situation. So I would also do that. Just because a company is telling you that they're going to pay you or telling you that they're good for their word, don't trust always. I would advise you, if you can, to do a credit check on them. It only costs a few pounds to do it, and that will give you a good insight into how their finances are currently. And if you're worried about that, your bank can also help you with a credit check for them. So that's something that you might want to think about as well. So budgeting is really important. Getting your finances right, making sure that you can constantly react. So having something always there, a little bit of a safety net. I also, for many years, just kept an overdraft in place, even though I didn't use it. I just kept it just in case I might need to use it at some point. So that was really important for me to have that safety net that I knew I could react if I needed to. So again, important. Budgeting is important. And if you're listening here and you've got any questions about any of these items I'm talking about, please just type in your question in the box, in the comment box, and we'll try and answer that in the Q&A at the end. So yeah, so that budgeting is important. Next thing I've been asked to talk about also is about registration and legalities. What if you're starting a business this year? What do you have to do? What's the requirements legally? Well, actually, we come under a few different requirements. There's a legal requirement for the Health and Safety at Work Act that we have to train our staff correctly, and we have to train ourselves. We have to make sure that we're confident, that we know what we're doing, and that we are aware of all of the pitfalls that could come across our line of business. So training is important, whether you do that training with us as an academy, which we'd love to have you do that with us, or you get training from somewhere else. That's important that you have that training in place. Then you need to think about what legally you have to have. So to start a business in the UK, you have to have insurance. So you'll have to apply for a public liability insurance to be able to trade. So that's the first thing, public liability. If you employ people, you'll have to have employer's liability. And also, if you have working for larger organisations, you'll find that the indemnity value that they require is an insurance indemnity of up to £10 million. So it used to be 5 million, now most require an indemnity of £10 million. So there's a professional indemnity you can get as well, which protects you, and that's another type of insurance as well. So looking at public, employers, and professional indemnity insurance. So that's the first thing you need, along with the training that we mentioned. Secondly, you'll need to know what you're doing with your waste. It's a real minefield for people, and we really help our network with this tremendously. I think we go over and above to try and help people. But you will need to be to carry waste that's not your own. You'll have to be licensed. So legally, you'll have to become an upper tier waste carrier, and you will have to register with the government for doing that to be able to carry waste. That lasts about 3 years. And to accompany that license, you'll also have to deal with the paperwork that goes with it. So for non-hazardous waste, you'll have to have a duty of care waste transfer notice. But for hazardous waste, you'll have to produce a consignment note for that waste. So these are all available. The information is available on Gov websites as well. But that's something that you will need to do if you can to get that all set up to be legal. So insurance, your training, and your waste carrier's license. And then we come to a grey area really on inoculations. For me personally, I think, why would you not get an inoculation to protect yourself? So tetanus is something that we would ask you to keep up to date with. And then also hepatitis B inoculations, because it can survive so long in body fluid, 8 weeks in the water with body fluid and a week in dry blood. It's something that you need to protect yourself. So that would be key to having that in place as well. So legally you need to have that. And if your business then is being set up as a sole trader, so you're just self-employed, then you can just register as self-employed with the tax office and you can start your business immediately. If you decide that you want to set your business up as a limited company, and a lot of people don't actually know what that means, but actually it's limited liability. So you end up as an employee of your company. Your company is registered with Companies House. It's only costs about £60 to set up a limited company, but it means that it's limited liability on you as a person. So if you ever got into financial difficulties, the company did, then there's much less impact on you personally for that. So the bigger organisations that you work for will prefer you to be a limited company. However, smaller companies don't really mind. As a sole trader, self-employed, it'll be perfectly fine and you'll do very, very well. So I was self-employed for many, many years and then set up a limited company in the year 2000. And from then on, Ultima became a limited firm from that point on. Okay, now we're going to look at clients, your clients. How do you win clients? How do you keep them? How do you attract them? What a great kind of subject to discuss. I often think sometimes giving away this information for free on things like this is so valuable for people, because it's kind of like the board you couldn't afford. You're talking to someone who's running a business and giving away free information to try and help you. And that's what we're trying to do. We want to see businesses succeed. And I personally love it when businesses and people get off the ground and start their own businesses. So for winning clients, for attracting clients, all those legal things that I mentioned are really important. But also it's key to your business of finding the right person in each business to go for, and also to understand how the mechanics of contracts work. So for example, you might see that on some tender website that the police are offering a contract that's worth £5 million for decontaminating West Midlands Police decontamination services. Well, that sounds great, and surely you'd want a piece of that. However, if you're such a small company that you're not turning over anywhere near that, it's too much of a risk for them to offer that contract to you. So very often, if you look in the small print or you ask for the criteria, you will see that you need to be turning over at least £5 million before they'll offer you another £5 million contract. Therefore, you might think, oh no, how am I ever going to break into this? Well, two things. One is there are loads of smaller contracts out there, loads of jobs available, loads of work available coming from domestic properties where people have had accidents and they've had death in families, right the way through to smaller businesses. I was speaking to someone today who's working directly for the YMCA, and it's a small little contract. It's worth about 20,000-30,000 a year. Great little business, and they're affording to do that and run that business really, really well. So those smaller contracts are really worth doing. I think it's also worth going and finding out who was the person or the company that got the £5 million contract for that police contract. It's worth finding out who they are and going to see them or emailing them and congratulating them on winning that contract. And then saying to them, actually, is there any elements of that work that they would like to subcontract out? There's a pain in the neck for them that for you might be a little nugget that you can offer that service. Think about it. You're quicker, faster, more efficient. You can react better in all those tiny little niche areas. Therefore, you might be able to work directly for this big giant company. So don't view it as some aloof company that you can never work for. I always think about looking at it as kind of a company that you need to make friends with, and they need to know who you are and what you do. So that's key also to this business, is to make relationships with people, and don't get down because you haven't won a contract. Find out why you didn't get it. Find out what was the reason and how can you improve. What are they looking for? Once you have got a contract and once you are working with a client, really important to keep them up to date with what you're doing. Things expire. We know our insurances expire every 12 months. So before they have to come and ask you for that paperwork, send it to them. Make sure they know you're on top of your game. Make sure they know that you're up to date with everything. That makes a huge difference to them when you're proactive in doing that. Also key to know who their health and safety officer is. If you find out that person who's dealing with their health and safety, you can ask them if they've done a really in-depth risk assessment on the tasks that you can cover for them. For instance, who currently is cleaning void properties for your local council? If there's dead animals or body fluid or body contamination from following someone who's died in the property, who's doing that right now? What if there's needles in the property? Because very often we find that it's kind of like building firms that are going in to replace kitchens and bathrooms, and they've offered to do this as a service, but in reality, they're not doing things properly. We've heard of horror stories of them just putting hypodermic needles into Coke cans and throwing them into skips outside. Well, that's illegal. And from a health and safety point of view, that's not sorting out their risk correctly. So it might be that you can have a really good chat with their health and safety executive or their officer, whoever's looking after it, and see if you can minimise their risks further, becoming a more beneficial company for them to work with. So that's really a nugget that I think you need to take away from this if you can. The health and safety officers in each business are key to you to be able to find and talk to be able to show them what you do as a business is minimizing risks massively compared to who they're currently using. And also maintaining them. I think the relationships are really, really good. We used to use that phrase that no news is good news. I don't think that's correct. I've had businesses before where I've worked for and I haven't heard from them for ages and ages and ages, thinking that everything was okay. And then suddenly work stops. And then you realize that something has gone wrong. Communication's broken down, or there was something they were hoping you would do and you didn't do. So regular client meetings, go and see them, go and find out how they're doing, if they're happy with your services you're currently offering them. Or maybe if they've branched out, they might just think that you can't do this, cover this certain area, just because they didn't know the size of your business. So really important for you to keep that communication up to date with them. Make sure they're your friend and they know what you're doing is proper and correct. And also, if you are associated with us as an academy, that's a really powerful thing for them to know as well, because not only are you offering specialized services, but now you've got a safety net of a relationship with a large company who are specializing in this and actually kind of going over and above what we need to be doing in it for a legal requirements. So that's a really powerful relationship that we can have together as well, which will help you. So finally, marketing and expansion. So this is something that I had to do on my own when I first started, and it's a real minefield. It's really difficult when you're a one-man band. You probably found this if you're just starting out, that marketing is something that needs to be done really regularly and really constantly throughout the year. And if you're doing it yourself, you could be incredibly busy for a couple of months, and then you have a quiet day. You think, I'll do some marketing today. And then you're incredibly busy, and then you don't do any marketing, and then suddenly work dries up. And that's probably because there's not been this regular marketing flow. Also, depending on your age, your abilities with marketing might be limited. I mean, it's not long ago before everybody used to read the yellow pages. It used to be given at everyone's door, and that was the place to be recognised in. Now that's completely gone. In fact, yellow pages or yell.com have nearly lost their identity, and it's been completely overtaken by social media and also by search engines. So Google, for example, seems to be the primary search engine that the people use currently. That may change in a few years if another company comes along. We've also got social media changes depending on your age. So are you the same age as me, where you're into Facebook and that's your kind of level, or are you now a younger generation where you're using Snapchat or you're using Instagram or the next social media that's coming on? And the more that you don't get your fingers into, the more you're going to miss out on that generation of people that are using that. So it's something that's constantly got to be looked at and maintained. I'd also say that if you can afford to, it's really, really good to use a company that are really good at this. So as a business, we use a company for doing our marketing, and I found them to be a great gel with our business. You'll see them advertising for using our information that we're working together on, but it's been really good to be able to invest money in that. But it's really hard, I know, as a business to think, I'm going to take all this money I've worked really hard for and give it to someone who could do something I can do. But actually, they can do it a lot, lot better. Do you remember that phrase? You probably heard it. If you want something done well, do it yourself. I think that's a load of rubbish. If you want something done well, pay someone who's really good at it, and they will make sure that it's done properly for you. But they'll still need lots of information from you. So who do you want to give your information to? I remember an illustration of someone saying, it's just like throwing mud at a wall. And marketing is like that. If it sticks, you just keep throwing it at it. But if it doesn't stick, you've got to change your direction, change what you're throwing. And that's the same with marketing. So you need to be able to find out who your clients are. Are you going to try and attract larger clients, or are you going to attract small clients? Are they going to be commercial clients, or are they going to be domestic clients? What are you looking for? So you need to know that primarily. And then those niches we started talking about in the beginning. Are you going to start aiming it directly at housing associations or police forces? Or are you going to be a little bit out of the box? We had one lady came on our training course, and all she does now is sanitize massage parlours. Now, whatever you think of that is up to you, but what a clever lady to be able to set up her business doing that. So all she does is sanitize those massage parlours. Does really, really well out of it. But that's her client. So she's got to work out how she finds that client, how she manages that relationship, and how she keeps that client. So her marketing was very, very niche. You might find that your marketing is using something like a local newspaper. The generation that read local newspapers are still there. They're still reading those papers and looking for that information. It might be that you get invited to go onto a local radio show to give an interview. I would just say that whenever you're doing anything regarding interviews or anything regarding face-to-face, be as professional as you can. The last thing you want to do is kind of embarrass yourself or embarrass your business by saying the wrong thing to the wrong person or getting someone to have the wrong opinion of where you're coming from. So really make sure you're polished in what you're going to say and how you're going to act. And finally, I think one area of marketing that gets severely missed is your local high street. I think wherever you are, there'll be lots of charities, lots of organisations, lots of solicitors, lots of businesses, lots of insurance companies, all in that local high street that you may have overlooked. But to be able to go and see them, find out who the important partners are in that business and tell them exactly what you do and how you can make a difference to their clients or to them, that's really powerful. And then maintain that. I've got a great friend who has got a business selling denim jeans, a really high-end denim jeans, and he decided that he was going to have a newsletter, which seemed really old school to have a newsletter. But wow, what a clever idea, because he's pulled together all these people, and the newsletter contains stuff that everybody's interested in, along with some marketing and advertising for his business. So even those tiny little nuggets of having a newsletter can make a big difference to your business. But whatever you do, make sure you sustain it, or you've got a solution for sustaining it. It's quite difficult. If you're doing it as a one-man band, as I mentioned, you'll get to this point where you're too busy to do it, and your monthly newsletter will get missed for month 2, month 3, month 4, and then what's the point in the newsletter? So really important that you either assign time to do this yourself, or that you pay someone to do it really well. So that's kind of all of my little nuggets. I hope they've been beneficial for you as a business. I hope you've personally taken them on board. What we'd love to do now is just kind of go through a question and answer session. So if any of you have posted questions on our comments section, or if you have any relating to what we've said, then we'll try and answer them for you. So Jamie's with me, so he's going to fire those questions at me. I have no idea what's coming, and I hope that I can answer some of them if I can.
Okay, hi Ben. Can you share a memorable challenge you faced while transitioning from window cleaning to crime scene cleaning, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, I can do. So that's a really good question, actually. I found that window cleaning for me was really local. It was kind of 9 till 5 job. It was really easy. So to go into crime scene cleaning meant for me that initially I had to travel a lot. I had to kind of go. One of the first jobs I had was from Cardigan to go down to Portsmouth. While I was there, I got asked to go from there to London. And then when I was in London, I got asked to go to Edinburgh. So I remember I never went home for that week and a half. And the biggest transition for me was my time balance with my personal time, with my family, and for work. So it was really hard for me to set this business up and not lose my family while I was doing it. So I had to really scrutinise my time and share the load with other people. So as soon as I could employ people who were professional and could help me, then I did that. So that was a really difficult time for me. You have to throw everything into starting a new business, but just be careful that you don't lose things that are really precious to you. That was one of my downfalls. I managed to keep my family and we're all happy, but I had to make some conscious decisions on not spreading myself too thin.
Okay, one's just came in here. Coming on Facebook. Can you give us a realistic earning potential of a crime scene cleaner?
Yeah, it's difficult depending where you are and what you're doing, but and what's going on around you. So I can kind of relate it to when I first started. I didn't have any contracts with the police. We just had contracts with some solicitors that we'd kind of given them some information, local solicitors, local undertakers. So we had work coming in. So when I first started, it's kind of possible to unrealistic to earn between £2,000 and £5,000 a month, where I was in West Wales from biohazard work. So each job, if we go out and clean either a suicide or a murder or some accidental death or those kind of things, you're looking at normally earning between £800 and £1,500 per job. So I think a figure of between kind of 2,000 to 5,000 when you're starting per month is kind of realistic, and then that just grows on from there. We have had some people come on the course, our training course, and they have done remarkably well. So instantly they pick up a contract, or they already had it in the bag. That's why they came on the course, because they knew someone from a council. But and they're earning in excess of £80,000 a year, very quickly, very easily. So it just depends really on where you're going, what you're doing, and how much time you can assign to it. I would say that it's a great bolt-on business while you're starting. So if you've got an existing cleaning business or a reactive business, to have this on the side, like if you're a pest controller or a cleaner, to have this as a bolt-on, it won't cost you anything really. It'll just tick along at the side, and it'll probably get to a point where in I would say between 24 and 36 months, where that business will probably be generating more income than the previous business you had, because it's so niche and so financially better than most businesses.
Excellent. So Charlotte Clark's on, who is on our last course. Nice to hear from you. Hi, thanks, Ben. I've got my insurance sorted now, having my second hepatitis jab tomorrow. I'll get this sent over to you and look forward to working along with you.
Great. Well done. Thank you for coming on the course. It was a real pleasure to meet you last time. So, that'd be great. Again, hepatitis inoculations, get them all done, and then we can start working together. That would be great. And while you're doing that, continue to market locally to pick up work. We've had some great stories of people who've come on the course this week, and they started to do some marketing before they came. Just sending emails out to people who know, and they're already having jobs come in while they're on the course before they've even finished. So they're starting to book work in. So that's been really lovely. So I hope that's the case for you, Charlotte, as well.
Excellent. This one's came in on LinkedIn. How much roughly does a biohazard kit start off with?
Okay, good question. And again, my encouragement to you is not to go mad with it, depending on your budget and what you want to spend. But I would say for the basics, without a vehicle, so hopefully you've already got a vehicle in place. But for the kit itself, to buy a rapid response kit and a fogging machine and the basic PPE that you're going to need, I would think you're looking at in the region of about £1,500 total to get you started. And then there might be a few machines and a few extras that you'll need in the future. So it's not massive at all, really. And most of that you'll get back in 1 or 2 jobs.
Lovely. Okay. Has there ever been a job that's came in that's made you wish you were still a window cleaner?
Well, that's a good question. I've done so many different types of work and different jobs. I think I haven't been affected too much by many jobs, but I remember I was cleaning up a property. You may have seen a previous interview I did for Lad Bible, which discussed a job where this poor woman was bludgeoned by her husband. And actually, it wasn't the fact that I was cleaning it up. It was an incredibly violent situation to clean up. But I found out that she'd been on the floor in the kitchen alive for 3 days, and then sadly passed away when her neighbour found her, and then she passed away in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. So after going through all of that trauma, that was quite heart-wrenching for me to hear that story. It kind of set me back a little bit. And for a time, I was driving back to West Wales. It's a 4.5 hour journey back to where I live, thinking about what am I doing? Is this something I really want to be involved in? And should I go back to window cleaning? But I do love my work as well. So for every job that I've done that's been a bit weird and a bit horrible, I do absolutely love it. So it's been a kind of a difficult job, but I've loved every minute of it.
Okay, thanks, Ben. How easy and expensive is it to dispose of hazardous materials resulting from the cleaning, i.e. sharps, bins, biohazard waste from cleanups?
Yeah, bizarrely, you get different prices around the country. So you will have to set up, as I said, as a licensed waste carrier, an upper tier waste carrier, and you'll have to produce some paperwork to go along with that. So if we are talking about biohazard waste, you'll have to produce a consignment note, and you can charge for that as well. There's an element of time, no cost for producing that, just your time. And then you will normally have to have an agreement with a company. So it's either you've got a waste disposal facility that you can take it to. Sometimes that's just your local pet crematorium. They'll be happy to take that waste. Other times you'll have to find a waste transfer station that can deal with potentially infectious waste, and they're licensed for that. And they will normally charge you in the region of between for a sharps box, let's say a 5 litre sharps box, you'll normally have a minimum charge of about £70, plus the consignment note fee that they will charge you. So probably about £100 for a sharps box to get rid of. It's a little bit cheaper if you've got more of them. When you're dealing with biohazard waste, you can either speak to a company that will leave a bin at your depot or at your premises, and they will come and empty that big wheelie bin for you, and they will charge you a consignment note and a collection charge normally of about £60, and then charge you about £8 per bag to take orange bag or yellow bag waste for incineration or for maceration, depending where it's going. So that's some of the costs. One of the difficult things is when you get weird combinations. So if you get a mattress, for example, that's soaked in body fluid, that can, in some areas, to get that incinerated can cost in excess of £500, coupled with POPs waste that you can do some research on, and your incineration costs. So it just depends on what you're carrying. You think of a massive sofa that somebody's passed away on that's saturated, lots of costs involved in that, in getting rid of that. So it really depends. But for average prices, about £8 a bag for incineration, £8 to £10, plus your consignment note costs.
Lovely. Hi, Ben. Have you had the unfortunate? Oh, sorry, mate. Have you had the unfortunate? Okay, I think what they're trying to say here is, have you ever had to go to a trauma scene where you've had to clean up, or it's been someone that you've known, or you've been known through a friend?
Yeah. So when I've had a direct connection with, sadly, that's happened a few times. Yeah, I've had to do that. Actually, I view it as a real privilege for the family to be able to help them. If you've not done this kind of work, you have no idea of the sense of pride that you can get from attending a property that is creating so much trauma for people. And when you leave, you've just removed all of that. Whatever's gone wrong with their life is still affecting them. I totally get that. So there's lots of loss and sadness around what's happened. But to be able to allow them to go back into a property with no kind of residue or resulting trauma from what's happened is a real privilege. And I've managed to do that free of charge for some friends of mine where they've had tragic situations. Work colleagues I've known through the years, people I've made relationships with. So I've done that for them. And then sometimes out of the blue, there's a horrific accident, and it's turned out that I've known the person, and it's been really difficult, but also really rewarding to do that.
Hi Ben, has your work ever took you abroad?
Not with crime scene cleaning, no. Although we get a lot of people coming from abroad now to do our face-to-face training. So we mentioned we've got someone here at the moment. Although Gibraltar's a British island, they're from Gibraltar on the course. We've had people on the course from Belgium, from Holland, India, from Nigeria. So we've had lots of people from different places. But for me, no, all of my work has been confined biohazard-wise just to the UK. Cleaning-wise, I've done a little bit overseas for some contracts that I've worked with, but it's not been related to biohazard.
Okay. Are you scared of any creepy crawlies?
What do you think? No, not at all. I know how to kill everything, which is quite handy. So part of our training course, as you're probably aware, is a pest control course. So we deal with pesticides and we deal with being able to kill all of those. But no, I don't mind. I come across skin beetles, maggots, larvae, flies, cockroaches, fleas, all of those kind of things. Spiders. Don't worry me at all.
Excellent. Okay, one on pest control actually. Do you do internal pest controlling or pest control courses online?
Yeah, good question. So we haven't done. So we have a small pest control course on our website at Ultima Cleaning Academy, which is for pest control related to a crime scene. So it just really covers flies and maggots. That's the kind of main thing that it covers, to be able to clean up and to kill and to get rid of from the scene. However, hot off the press, no one really kind of is aware of this too much at the moment. So in the next probably 4 weeks, we will have a level 2 accredited pest control course, which will be for rodents, so rats and mice and squirrels and all of the stuff that goes along with rodents. And then also an insect infestation control course, which will cover everything from flies, maggots, but also cockroaches and fleas, all the kind of bed bugs, those kind of situations that you're going to come across. So that course will be live in about 4 weeks, so keep an eye on our website for that. And that's going to be an online course. We've done some training for that ourselves with other people, and it's been really boring, really difficult to do. So we're adding 360-degree videos on farms, showing where the best places are to deal with rodents in restaurants, in kitchens, in office environments. So yeah, stay peeled, and if you fancy doing that course, that'd be a real asset, another great bolt onto what you're doing currently.
Excellent. So this one's from Andrew. So what he's saying in his question is, he's asking, do you feel that the market is currently saturated with biohazard cleaning, or do you think there are gaps there to be exploited? Obviously, this will be down to set locations.
Yeah, I think location has a big part to play in it. My first answer is no, I don't think it's saturated. I think that there are a lot of companies out there who are offering services that I don't really know what they're doing. And some people kind of jumped on the bandwagon in COVID, and every cleaner became a COVID cleaner during COVID. And you've all seen those horror stories of people running around gymnasiums with a fogging machine and shorts and a t-shirt on, and all these kind of horror things that you saw. So there's an element of that happens, and there's an element of people doing that. However, I do sadly believe that society in general is not going in a manner that would decrease our work. So our work is increasing because of the way society is behaving. There's more drugs on the streets than ever, more needles we're cleaning up, more suicides, sadly, more domestic violence. It's a bit of a sad story, but that's the reality. Is our work is increasing. And so, yeah, depending on where you are and what you're doing, that has an impact. I definitely agree with that. So someone out in the sticks on the Hebrides, maybe this isn't the job to have out there. But if you're near a town or a city, then definitely there's a huge increase in work. And people who come on our training course who are serious about marketing themselves and finding those niches are doing incredibly well.
Okay, so Dave's came back. He says, thanks for the information about waste. Going back to the waste disposal costs, you mentioned paying up to £500 for soiled mattresses disposal. On average, how much would that job have been priced at? Just trying to understand the margins.
Yeah, okay, perfect. So when it comes to waste, it's a real minefield, and we offer people two solutions basically. If you're a subcontractor or you're a self-employed cleaning firm, your two options would be this. So, say if you were doing a job for me, you could invoice me for your time, your energy, your costs, and we might say for an average job, which might be, let's take say a road traffic accident, or for say working for a council, that might be easier. We're working for a council, local authority, where someone has passed away in a property. So you got two options to price that. You can either understand how waste works and know that very, very well in your area. So if you know that it's going to cost you £500 to get rid of a mattress, and you might have two or three other bags, your waste cost might not go over £600. So you might say, well, I'm going to charge £1,200 for this. So you might say, actually, my charge for this job is £1,800 for the whole job, including everything, including the waste costs and doing the job. So you can either lump it all in together. The danger with that is if you come across something that you haven't priced correctly, or you're not sure how to get rid of it, or there's extra cost involved in it. For example, if somebody has died on a first floor and they are now dripping through a first floor ceiling, died on the first floor, dripping through a ground floor ceiling, and there's Artex on that ceiling, that Artex will probably contain asbestos. Therefore, your job has just changed massively. So if you've offered to do the whole job and you've not priced it correctly, you can easily get caught out on things like that. So starting out, I would advise you to offer your services at maybe £1,200 for that job, and then say waste will be charged at cost. So you don't make any profit on it, but you deliver your client every waste invoice that you have, and they know you can substantiate that with those invoices, and they will pay that. So you won't get caught out, but you won't make any money on that. And the more confident you get dealing with waste, the more you perhaps will be able to add a little bit on and make a few pounds here and there out of those waste costs, because you know how to maybe reduce the cost or take it somewhere that can deal with it slightly cheaper. Or it may be that you've got something like a foam mattress, a memory foam mattress, and the cost of getting rid of that mattress may be in excess of £300, £400, £500. However, the contamination is only on one corner. Therefore, you can cut that out and you can put that into a yellow bag, and you can dispose of that at that disposal cost. But the rest of the mattress can go to landfill, and it'll come under POPs waste, as we mentioned earlier, but it'll be a lot cheaper than incineration. So there may be those options for you as well.
Perfect. Well, listen, Ben, thank you again for everything today. Some great feedback. Lots of people messaged in to say thank you. So on this note here, I think we'll say good afternoon, and if you want to say goodbye to everyone.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you for listening to us. It's been 3 series of these we've done now, so I hope they've been beneficial, and real pleasure to meet you all. Thank you so much, and we'll speak to you all soon again. Thank you.